Thank you for having us here today. I'm Emily and this is Joe. We're going to go through, we have about 10 minutes to tell you about our 18-day trip in India. And I came away with 3,500 photos. So you don't get to see them all.
You only get to see a few. Is this on?
Okay, so we went to India, the northern part of India. We arrived in New Delhi on February 7th. We decided to participate in an NID together, and I found out how to participate in an NID through Facebook. I have a lot of friends on Facebook who are Indian Rotarians, and I asked them, hey, is there an NID coming up, and how can my mom and I go? And so we got hooked up with a group in Canada called the Polio Vision 2010 team, and that is how we ended up going to India this February.
This is where we met our team in Newark, New Jersey. The big table is at a restaurant called Gallagher's. The leader of our group was called Bob Gallagher. It was just a coincidence. The other picture is a picture of us actually arriving 16 hours later in the New Delhi airport. They greeted us with leis of flowers, marigolds. We got marigold leis almost every place we went from every group of Rotarians that we saw. This is exactly where we went on the trip. We landed in New Delhi. We actually did our NID, our National Immunization Day, in the state of Haryana, which is a little bit southwest of Delhi. And Emily and I were assigned to a village called Pingwa. And then from that we had a trip to Jaipur, where we saw some other hospitals that we'll tell you about, and to Agra, where we actually went to the Taj Mahal. Then back to Delhi for some more Rotary projects. Our one excursion that was for fun was to the Corbett Tiger Reserve up by the Himalayas. And then we went back to Delhi and on a train to Mumbai, where we then did some other Rotary projects. Every single day of our 18 or 19 days was deeply involved with Rotary.
So when we arrived in New Delhi, our very first day, we got there at 11:20 at night, got to sleep by about 2:30 in the morning, and we're up and at 'em and meeting with local Rotarians in Delhi in the bus by 8 o'clock and at a house by 10 a.m. in the morning to be briefed by the local Rotarians in Delhi and the World Health Organization. What we learned was what we were going to be doing the following day, which was immunizing children in the Mewat villages for the polio. It's one of the areas that is not really seen a lot by immunization troops that go out and help find the kids. What they told us is that there's 3 types of polio in polio diseases. So you have the polio 1 virus, 2 virus, and 3 virus. Polio 2 has been totally eradicated from the world. It is the virus that kills children and people. So now what we are battling is polio virus 1 and 3. And so we were briefed on the impacts of 1 and 3 in the village that we were going to. The previous Saturday to that, they had just found out that there was a child diagnosed with polio, and that child had both viruses 1 and 3. So they gave us instructions on what we were going to do. We had a really nice lunch. The doctor that you see speaking on the far left is actually a doctor with the World Health Organization. And he kind of led all of us into the villages that we were going to.
We'll just skip to this. The actual experience of going to the village is a remote village about 3 hours from the little town we were staying in, which was also very remote. We picked up along the way some local musicians who were young men dressed in these satin garbs, and they were drummers. They were the people who were going to introduce us to the village of Pingwa. And the way they did that is they went ahead dancing and drumming ahead of us as our entire team of 22 Rotarians followed behind them in our matching shirts and shawls over our heads and hats, and greeted all the villagers to their surprise and dismay.
Now, one of the things that's interesting about India is they have plenty of Rotarians and volunteers to do the immunizations. But the local Rotarians are not as interesting a figure for the villagers to come out and see. So one of the reasons that they bring in us is because the villagers and the children especially are really interested in these strange people walking down the street. And that is really our purpose. It's not really that we give better drops than the Indian Rotarians do. It's that we're kind of weird, and all the kids were very fascinated, and they want to talk to us, and so we bring in all the crowds, because here comes the circus of all of these strange people from America and Canada.
They brought us for the spectacle.
So I have a little video. I hope it plays.
These are the drummers leading us through the village. It's an ancient village, all made of stone houses, no water, no sewer system. And is it going to go?
No.
Okay. We have a little video of what we actually looked like and what our drummers looked like leading us through the village. By the time we got through the village, our march took about probably an hour to march through the entire village, up and down all the streets. We had thousands of people and thousands of children following us. It was just like being the Pied Piper.
So we get to our booth. We are established with two local women at their house, and they call it the booth. There's a banner above the women's house that says this is where a polio station is. We're supposed to have a guy from the World Health Organization and one of the local Rotarians with us, but we don't know where they are. So Mom and I are with these local Indians. We don't speak any of the same languages, and it's our job to run this polio booth. We actually did a great job without having anything to say. We did it all through sign language and smiles, and had a great time staying at this house with these women that were helping us immunize children. So here you see one of the local women, and she is actually coloring a pinky of a boy who's just been immunized with the polio indelible marker, is what it's called.
And the fact of it is, we don't have any pictures of us actually giving drops because we were understaffed, Emily and I being the only two people there. And so we took pictures of the kids after we gave them the drops. We gave them live vaccine by putting 2 drops in their mouths. We were focusing on children between birth and 3 years old, although we did immunize some children who were a bit older who had been skipped in previous NIDs.
And this is kind of a picture of the house that we were standing on was about 3 feet higher above the sidewalk. And this is a picture that I took of some of the middle school children and local villagers who were absolutely just fascinated to watch us all day long. And that's what they did.
And it was an interesting thing. The first time they came to see us, they were all in sort of tattered and dirty looking. And then we would notice that they would all disappear. And then the children would come back all spiffed up and wearing all their best clothes. And then they wanted us to take their pictures. And so we took pictures of all of the children. And then they would get their families. And the families would come back, and we'd take family groups.
This is a picture of a couple of the banners that the Indian government uses to advertise National Immunization Day. And that's the woman of her home and the banner that marks her home as a polio booth. The other one is a polio advertisement outside the train station in New Delhi. These are just random banners as we're driving along. One is with the baby immunized, and one is with the number 7. I had to ask, what does that mean, that number 7 on that banner? And I was told, Emily, come on, it's because we're doing it on February 7th.
She forgot. She lost track.
And I went, oh, that makes sense. So there's a picture of the polio indelible marker. It used to be that you dipped their fingers, their pinkies in ink, but now they actually make a polio marker.
And it is produced for that purpose. We mark not only their fingernail, but their skin around it.
So it's estimated that on the day that we were there, 1.7 million children were vaccinated throughout all of India. There were over 500,000 volunteers that participated. Not only NID teams like ours that came from all parts of the world, and while we were in India, we saw Indian teams or NID teams from India, from France, from Germany,
yes,
and one from Maine.
And one from Australia.